I moved everything before she filed. 2 weeks later, she did, and then laughed when it backfired. Hey Reddit, I'm here to share something personal, and a bit satisfying. Before we dive into it, just a small request. If you enjoy stories with unexpected turns, betrayal, and a pinch of well-earned revenge, hit that subscribe button. It's quick, free, and helps keep this channel going. Now let's get into it. My name's Ethan Cole. I'm 37, living in Arizona, and up until recently, I thought I had the kind of life people envy. I'd been married to Natalie for 5 years. We met at a 4th of July barbecue, classic Americana. She stood out instantly. Gorgeous, clever, witty. She could navigate a deep conversation or a glass of wine with the same grace. Our connection was immediate. Within 6 months, we were inseparable. It felt like one of those whirlwind romances you see in feel-good movies. The kind that ends in forever. But not every fairy tale ends in happily ever after. Some end with legal consultations and property transfers. In the beginning, everything seemed ideal. We bought a home together, traveled, even started planning for children. She was supportive when my father passed, helped me through one of the hardest times of my life. I truly believed we were a team. But about 7 months ago, something shifted. It didn't happen suddenly. It was slow, creeping, like silent rot beneath the floorboards. By the time I sensed it, the foundation was already crumbling. Natalie began acting different. Her phone, once left carelessly on the kitchen counter or coffee table, was now always with her, screen turned down, clutched tightly. Then came the new passcode. I hadn't even known she had one. When I asked, she laughed and brushed it off. Work's changed policies, security stuff. Right. Because art galleries are national security threats now. Soon, late-night texts became frequent. I'd catch glimpses of her smirking at the screen before tucking the phone away again. Conversations over dinner, once our daily ritual, faded. It felt like I was sharing meals with a polite stranger instead of the woman I married. Still, I told myself not to jump to conclusions. Maybe I was overthinking. Maybe I was being insecure. But that uneasy feeling kept tightening in my chest. And then came the moment everything changed. One Thursday, she told me she was grabbing coffee with her friend Hannah after work. No big deal, she'd done that before. I happened to be nearby and thought I'd surprise them. Maybe even pick up the check. But when I got to the cafe, I stayed in the car. Because she wasn't with Hannah. She was pacing outside, talking on the phone, saying things like, "It's almost all done. A fresh start. No strings attached." I didn't confront her. I just listened. When she got home, she smiled as if nothing happened and told me Hannah had been dealing with a breakup, and she'd spent the afternoon being supportive. I nodded, but deep down I knew. She was lying. From that moment on, I went quiet. I didn't ask questions. I didn't confront her. I started observing. Not to catch her cheating, but to understand what she was preparing for. A motive. A plan. Then one evening over dinner, she brought it up out of the blue. "We should organize all our financial information," she said. "Why?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. "Just in case of emergencies," she replied with a shrug that felt too rehearsed. "You know, account numbers, passwords, titles, everything." Now, this wasn't like her at all. Natalie hated anything involving spreadsheets. She once froze her debit card by accident, literally put it in the freezer. But now she wanted a financial master list? I smiled and said, "Sure, we'll go over it this weekend." I had no intention of waiting. That night, I called my Uncle Mark, a retired estate lawyer, and laid out everything. He didn't laugh or tell me I was paranoid. Instead, he said something I'll never forget. "Ethan, move fast. And move quietly. You're not overreacting. You're being smart." So, I acted. I opened a new savings account in my name alone and shifted the bulk of our funds there. The house, originally mine before we got married, was transferred into a family trust with my mother's name on it. I restructured my stocks, assets, even the shares in my small business. I left just enough in the joint accounts to keep everything looking normal. Natalie had no idea. She'd come home, kiss me like always, settle beside me on the couch, laugh at shows like everything was perfect. 2 weeks later, the other shoe dropped. One evening, she clicked off the TV, turned to me, and said, "We need to talk." I already knew what was coming. My chest tightened, but I kept my expression calm. "I've been thinking," she began, her tone painfully rehearsed. "I want a divorce." I didn't argue. I didn't even react. I just nodded. She blinked, clearly thrown off. Then came the speech. About how she'd lost her identity in the marriage. How much she'd sacrificed. How she needed a fresh start. It was dramatic. Emotional. Like something from a script she'd practiced over and over. Then she delivered the line that made my blood boil. "I've already spoken to a lawyer, and I think it's fair I get half. Half of the house, the savings, the investments. I helped build this life too." That was the play. Take what she could and walk away like the heroine in her own rom-com. But what she didn't know was that the ending had already been rewritten. I smiled calmly and said, "If that's what you want, we'll do it properly." She smiled back, confident, victorious. But then her attorney sent over her list of demands. She wanted 50% of everything. Only there was a problem. She didn't own anything anymore. The house? No longer under my name. The stocks, the accounts, all legally moved. Even the car was now titled under my mother's name. Everything had been handled long before Natalie served those papers. Her attorney tried to challenge it, arguing I had hidden assets. But every move I'd made had been clean, documented, and fully within the law. The judge didn't buy their narrative. He saw right through the act. That's when things really unraveled for her. Faced with a cold reality that she had no claim to anything, Natalie tried spinning it all as a misunderstanding, even had the nerve to say, "It wasn't serious. I never really meant to divorce him. We were just going through a rough patch. I was exploring my options." A rough patch? She had filled out legal forms, met with attorneys, detailed assets. This was a plan. A calculated one. But when it fell apart, she wanted to pretend it was just a bad joke. I left that courtroom without owing a cent. No alimony. No asset division. Nothing but the relief of finally being free. Later, I found out who'd been whispering in her ear, a guy named Jake, a coworker she'd grown increasingly close to in the last few months. He'd sold her some fantasy, leave your husband, claim half of his life, and start fresh with me. The moment it all crumbled, Jake vanished. About a month after everything was finalized, I got a text from Natalie. She missed me. Wanted to talk. Said maybe we could still fix things. I didn't reply. Not out of bitterness. Just clarity. Love isn't a game. And when someone treats it like one, they shouldn't be surprised when they lose. There's a lesson in this. Trust your instincts. Don't freak out when things feel off. Just prepare. Roughly 2 months after the divorce, I started putting the pieces of my life back together. Quietly. I moved into a sleek condo that overlooked the desert, not flashy, but calm. Peaceful. For the first time in years, I was sleeping deeply. No lies. No second guessing. Just quiet. Then a message came in from an unfamiliar number. "Hey, been thinking about us. Can we talk?" It was her. Natalie. I stared at the screen for a long time. The same woman who tried to strip me of everything, who plotted behind my back, now wanted to talk? I didn't respond. A few days later, another text came, longer this time. "I made a terrible mistake. Jake wasn't who I thought he was. He used me and left when things got hard. I thought I knew what I wanted. I didn't. I miss you, Ethan. I miss us." It was almost laughable. The same woman who turned our marriage into a business transaction was now painting herself as the wounded one. And then came the final twist. She showed up. At my workplace. She must have done some online digging to find out where I worked. I was wrapping up a meeting when my assistant buzzed in. "Ethan, there's a woman out front. Says it's personal." I stepped out, and there she was. Standing in the lobby in a crisp white blouse and tight jeans, like she thought she could just flip her hair, flash a smile, and walk right back into my life. I greeted her with a calm smile and said, "Please don't come here again." The look on her face? Priceless. But she wasn't done humiliating herself. A week later, I got a call from my mom. "Ethan, did you tell Natalie I was managing your finances?" "What? Of course not. Why?" My mom exhaled sharply, because she just showed up at my door. I was stunned. Natalie had driven to my mother's house, completely uninvited, and started crying on her porch, begging to speak with her. Claimed she wanted closure. But partway through their conversation, she started angling. Would you consider transferring a small portion of the savings back? She asked. I did invest years of my life in your son. Now, my mother is a composed woman, not easily rattled. But this time? She told me exactly what she said. I told that little actress to get off my porch before I called the police. Natalie left in tears. And you'd think that would finally be the end of it. It wasn't. The final blow came at an engagement party for a mutual friend. I almost skipped it, but the groom was a close college buddy, so I made an appearance. Low-key, quiet. Of course, she was there too. It began with subtle glances from across the room. Then she started asking people how I'd been, pretending we were still on speaking terms. I ignored her until she finally cornered me during a champagne toast. Ethan, she said, gently grabbing my arm. Can we talk? I turned to face her. Calm. Steady. Exhausted. You lost the right to talk to me when you tried to gut me in court. I was confused, she pleaded. Jake lied to me. He made me think. Think what? I interrupted. That marriage is some sort of business venture you could cash out on? By now, people nearby had started to notice. The room quieted. I loved you, she whispered, her voice cracking. No, I said quietly. You loved the comfort. The convenience. The moment you thought you could get more, you tried to trade up. Then, without raising my voice, I finished. You didn't just betray me. You underestimated me. And I hope one day you realize what you lost. Not the money, the man who actually loved you. Dead silence. She looked at me like I'd slapped her. Then she turned and stormed out. Everyone watched. No one followed her. She tried reaching out a few more times. Emails, DMs, even a handwritten letter claiming she'd found religion and wanted forgiveness. But I had already found peace. And forgiveness? That's for people who change. She hadn't. I blocked every channel she could use to contact me. Last I heard, Jake had ghosted her. She moved in with her older sister. Picked up part-time shifts at a local gallery. Stopped posting online altogether. As for me, I began dating again. Slowly. Cautiously. This time, with my eyes wide open. No more blind trust. No more shared passwords. No illusions. Because once you've looked betrayal in the eye and kept standing, you learn not to hand your heart over so freely again. And honestly, I'm more than okay with that.